so much for joining us for another edition of the Bloody Legends with Jai, that Aussie metal guy, and Jim Taylor, brought to you by Crank.com. Make sure you're a bloody legend and hit that like and subscribe.
Yeah, dude.
There we go. With Jim's excitement, we are ready to roll. We are the Bloody Legends. I am Jai, that Aussie metal guy, and I have my ever-reliable co-host, JB Jim Taylor. Today, tonight, this morning, wherever you are in the world, it was a great pleasure that we're getting to have a chat with Koluna. We have Chris, Brad, and Jason to talk about all things Koluna. Cheers for joining me, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. You kick this off, Jim. Come on, man. Let's get rolling, bro.
Oh my God. Okay, so these are good friends of mine. I was in a metal band called 1818, and shout out to my brothers in 1818, wherever you are. But we played many shows together in several bands. And so let's rewind to a year ago when you and I started the podcast. I was like, look, I got to get these dudes on. These are my brothers. I've known Chris. I've known these guys for ages, and I want to get them on. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's been too long, Jim. We don't see you.
I know.
For the uninitiated guys,
I'll get there.
For the uninitiated
please.
first, guys, I want you guys.
Indeed.
Can you please explain how would you describe your sound and style to someone who hasn't heard of you? Because it just blew me away when I put it on. But I'd rather you guys explain it.
How would you do that, Chris?
So all my favorite bands are pretty much on my arm. You know what I mean? I'm a big Gojira fan, big Meshuggah fan. This band kind of took shape when I was writing some riffs during the pandemic. And so we're about 4 years right now. Like, I think today I marked about 4 years where we're like officially a band. And I guess you would say like a little bit gent, like easy listening gent, some progressives in there. There's some stonery riffs in there every once in a while too. So just like a bunch of different genres blending. And as I continue to write, more and more genres start to make their way in, because I don't want to pigeonhole myself into one specific like little niche category. So just I kind of let it fly.
Yeah, it definitely has a great sound to it. It kind of fucking, as you mentioned, Meshuggah and Gojira. I also like a huge strapping young Devin Townsend, strapping young lad fan, and it kind of immediately drew me to that. And that I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. These guys are so bloody good. I did chuck in the Obelisk album, which is absolutely unreal. Amazing listen. The Eye of Despair is just a killer debut album to hit out of the blocks. I'm keen to know, besides what you've mentioned, who are some of the influences for you, Chris, Brad, and Jason, that kind of inspired you to be the musicians you are today?
Well, for me, when I met Chris, I was in a band called 9 Degrees, which was definitely more of a heavy Tool influence, some 4-piece band, more isolation for the bass, so leaves them more space for being weird. And then the band before that, it was more of a metalcore vibe, so it was pretty easy to get along, or to get on board with this project with Chris after I heard some of the stuff he was doing, because it seems like he was kind of combining some of the really positive things that I like about playing bass and heavy music. You know, it's not the fastest music, but it's still leaves room to be strange, leaves room to be open up, and still heavy.
Yeah. My previous bands were mostly influenced by I liked a lot of Mastodon, Opeth, and a lot more doom metal, particularly like Bell Witch. I like a lot of Bell Witch.
Great band. Great band.
Yeah, a lot of doom metal, Primitive Man, bands like that. So yeah, I got some black metal, some melodic death metal, and some doom metal. So
we all just kind of were, funny enough, we were all kind of free agents at the same time. The pandemic ended things for a lot of people in a sense, kind of poetically, if you will, because the pandemic just stopped it all anyway. So it kind of naturally run its course, and we didn't know what we were getting into next. In the meantime, you know, these guys were just kind of like hanging around. I was like, I like hanging out with Jason, and I liked his tone on bass a lot. Brad and it was so funny, like I guess a year before maybe we were at or no, 2 years before we were at Blue Fox for like a drum competition thing, scouting drummers. And I feel like that was a moment where he and I connected a little bit more than we had in the past. And I looped back around to it because I knew he was available. And then Dave, I joke we found him on the streets, but we ran across Dave just at a show. Hunter and I did actually. He was at a show just randomly in 2020, like about this time of the year. And someone's like, "Hey, he does vocals," and I was like, "Let me hear your stuff." And then a couple weeks later, he's hanging out with us, and just kind of came along. So.
He's an absolute cannon. Who he reminds me of too is the band Miss May I. He sounds like he's got a like his lows are lows, but he's also got this bark. And like it's interesting with y'all's guitar tone, and the way you guys play, it matches so well. And not to go back to go. I'm going to go back to Gojira. I'm not comparing you, but Chris would like that. We'll get into the Olympics in a second, but like the way there's Chris can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a Gojira song called "The Way of All." I want to say it's "The Way of All Flesh" with Randy Bly from Lamb of God.
Adoration for None.
I'm sorry, Adoration for None. I am sorry. It is on the record, "Way of All Flesh." That's why I have you. But it was interesting because you have Gojira, who has an interesting death metal sound, and then you have Randy, who's a punk singer. It's like you're playing the same field, but you're in different positions. So you've got Mastodon, you've got metalcore, you've got stoner, you've got different amalgamations of things, and I think that's what makes you Koluna.
Yeah, I feel like Dave. I like the Miss May I reference for sure. Dave, I told him when he was asking, like, where do we want to go vocal direction wise? Like, who do you want me to try, like, take some influence from? I was like, honestly, Black Dahlia Murder. I wanted you to go with the highs at least. Like, I wanted those highs like Trevor. I wanted the lows more guttural like Gojira. So there are spots on the first EP and stuff where I spotted in the lows, but Dave is more so getting closer to that low now. And he's progressed as a vocalist in the last 4 years. I feel like I've progressed as someone who writes better in the last 4 years. Like the new stuff we've been working on, I can't wait till we get to it. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely, it feels like league where we were. You know what I mean? So
it feels a little bit more evil.
It sounds bigger. It's definitely going to be sounding bigger. So that's really big for me.
So what was that like? Interesting, like 2020. The time we were going through. What was that like starting a new band? I know you had all this time, but it would have kind of been tricky as well. Starting a new band, kind of getting rolling. Did it give you more time to kind of play together, get used to it all through shit like this and playing at home? Or
well, two things. One, where we live at in West Virginia, it's a little backwards, I guess, about things. So basically a couple weeks went by and they're like, well, a couple local spots are opening back up again, lightly, wear your mask, go out, whatever. We didn't really have too much reservations about getting together. We were all like in work from home kind of environment situations or stuff like that, where it was like, we're not really around people anyway. So we're cool with getting together.
Sure.
And like I said, I had some extra downtime, so like the riffs started kind of flowing, and it just kind of came along.
Yeah, 2020, and it was probably like that way for a lot of musicians. I think that's when a lot of work was really put in, clearly because we were just coming together. I unfortunately was one of the ones that could work from home, so I had this weird night shift schedule. Still had to do all through 2020, but we were still able to get together and put the work in and learn these songs, which I would curse Chris at. Here, the weird thing about this is with the Genty vibe is like, I know I can play these riffs, but they're in weird arrangements. So that's the difficult part comes. It's like, damn it, I played it right. Oh shit, I didn't change it right.
I've always felt like the way that I write best, at least, is like keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method. So like write something that's headbangable and can get people moving, but don't make it too overly complex. You know what I mean? Like Because like I don't want to sit here and impress all the musicians, and then all the like common folk are like, I don't understand this at all. You know what I mean? Like just people just show up and they're like, this doesn't make sense. I want them to enjoy the show. I want people that are like musicians to be like, oh man, like why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? Like our
Right.
not to leave out, but like our setup for how we, at least for the guitars, how we perform is extremely niche too. So I'll get nerdy for 2 seconds here. We have quad cortexes that we run. We play in drop C, but then we use a whammy pitch shift effect to go down to like the F tuning. We don't play 7 strings. Well, Brad does, but we still pitch shift. You know,
Yeah, there's
but,
times where 7.
but
Okay.
it's like it's not something that you normally see people do. They typically play in their tuning. You know.
Right. But that's actually funny because I love experimenting with like an octaver or a pitch
Yeah.
shifter. I feel
Mhm.
like you guys are in a similar thing with like say Crowbot or CKY, where they
Mhm.
use like if you listen to Crowbot's Legend of the Spaceborne Killer, we can all hear that red, and then you
Mhm.
hear CKY when they do 96 Quiet Bitter Beings,
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna go back to Gojira because I know you like that. But listen to what was the one?
With the pitch shift on
Stra-
Magma.
was it
Stranded. That's the
Stranded?
thing though. For so long, you know, a lot of people do the pitch shift up and like a really quick little like, and I just
But not
goes up.
down.
But we use it as a permanent effect, pitched down. You know, so
See, that's cool. Very cool. That was my point. So
Mhm.
that was it.
Mhm.
So
Not to
they do
bring it
that.
back to Gojira.
So those guys do that, and I don't have any of that stuff. I'm old school analog with a solid state carbon head unit with a lot of wattage.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely got to
How many
rely on that.
how many strings, Jason?
5.
5. Okay. Brilliant. Okay.
But we tried at times, we tried a 6-string, and as far as organically getting down to that tuning, it wasn't working. So
Right.
I played a drop A and just transpose from there. And the weird thing about this drop F tuning with a lot of the earlier songs is I could very well play those on a 4-string bass. I don't really have any in stock.
Aha.
It's really, really hard for me to buy a new bass and it not be a 5-string
Well,
at
well,
this point.
here's what's crazy because I'm gonna nerd out with you. So as a bassist, you're low end. So as you guys, you can be like, well, we can pitch this, be weird about that. Jason, you could do that too, but I know when I've seen you play and play with you, you'll either follow the guitars, but you'll run a little bit. You've got the most freedom because it's like, all right, where are you at? I can tune as low as I can on this bass. And then almost between mirroring what they're doing, but then doing like a harmony, it's that it's that cool off sound. And that's what makes you guys unique. I think that's my observation. So
the hardest part about it though is by him being in a different tuning. When we are in the writing to tabs kind of time, everything's transposed fine for us, but we go to transpose at the bass and we have to be like, oh, Jason, we're
I
on
get
this
you.
fret, you're on that fret, and we have to keep remembering he's playing.
Well, I'm aware of that too. So it's
place.
like, okay, so what did you guys actually do here? Okay, yeah, let me go back to my map. Okay, I got you.
Right.
But yeah.
But it comes out brilliant. So I'm sorry.
It does. I want to
Yeah.
quickly jump in. I want to jump into the latest album for you guys, Obelisk, because that was the first one I chucked on from you guys, and it's an absolute great listen. You guys have a cool sound. It's must be tricky making albums because this album is like one you need to kind of play whole to get the most out of it. Like you can drop, like I think Obelisk, I'm not sure, might have been the first single you released off it. And yeah, you can take each single in bite-sized pieces, but these progressive albums I feel are the best when they're listened to whole. That's why I kind of like mediums like vinyl and stuff, because you can kind of lock yourself away into this listening experience. You have these moments the way you start out Falconer Grove, and then you kind of have the Sacred Heart, the Oracle, then it comes back, brings it back a bit, and you got the Path, and you kind of, I love these moments like with Doom and prog albums that have these points of introspection in them. And then you come right back through to Aether Realm, and then you've got the Obelisk, and you come through to that instrumental, that fucking amazing instrumental at the end
Oh,
there.
Dude.
Tell us
Zenith.
about kind of making this album in particular, the Obelisk one, and how you kind of set these tracks out. That's obviously an intentional thing, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of like a storytelling. Like Dave and I, and then sometimes Jason will get together, and I'll kind of explain an idea of what I want this to kind of be about, and then we'll just start, hammering out the lyrics. But as far as like the actual creation of this, so we started off in a studio in Cumberland, and our buddy Greg, he was just like, I don't really have the time to finish this. So then we went with our friend Anthony, and finished up for the most part. But then we went back kind of a little bit because we wanted a different mix on it. Because this would have been probably done 2022 if we would have just stuck it out with Greg, or if he would have been able to finish the album. And it ended up coming out this year. So the funny part was during that whole evolution of 22 to 24, I feel like I've improved in my writing, and I feel like what we're doing next is just going to be so much bigger and different. But I thought about a couple things I heard from like Joe from Gojira or Waylon from A Killer's Confession. They had spoken as if they're like, the albums are great. Of course, bigger bands can do like a full length and everyone just eats it right up. But the society that we live in today is more bite-sized, chunk oriented. Write shorter, 3 to 4 minute songs, drop singles, drop miniature EPs, don't drop large albums, because the world today is too fast paced for anyone to care long enough to listen to it through and through. Unless you're like, really, really, you're a metalhead or a music fan to an extreme where you just are like, that's all I want to do in my spare time is listen to albums like that. And that's great. I wish I had the time in my life too. I would continue to write 6 and 7 minute songs and stuff, but I've learned that I need to condense my thoughts a little bit. So going forward, we're looking at that kind of directional, maybe one song at a time single drop to be able to get more content out more quickly, or even do smaller sample bite sizes like the 3-song kind of things. But I still want to keep those atmospheric points, largely in the forefront to set the tone for a track. So like the Falconer track or Ether Realm or anything like that. They need to be good setups. I don't want every song to have an intro. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be Metallica in the 80s here, but I think that they help get that flavor to what is to come out there. And they're good for live purposes too. I mean, Dave's screaming his ass off for 45 to 50 minutes at a time, and he's putting everything into it. And we might need to tune here and there. So there needs to be that level of, it's a show. It's not just like play a bunch of songs and you leave. It's like, let that vibe, make everybody feel something, so.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing with that collection, I guess, with Obelisk is the instrumental Zenith is probably the oldest one that we actually worked on. It was one of the maybe, I want to say 3rd, maybe 4th songs that we worked on as a unit.
Yeah.
And it was actually surprising that we didn't actually put that on our first EP. So the way just holding on to that, and then with
and Sacred was early too.
Sacred actually was. Holy crap! Yeah, that was the 2nd song I learned. Yeah.
Yep.
So with with that and it not being on the 2nd EP, it's kind of great how the writing evolved, but these songs actually fit in better with the 2nd release.
You guys must be like kind of really glad this came out in March, because you, like as you mentioned, you've been working on new material. You're probably already all ready to start fucking recording the next album if you haven't already started. Yeah,
I am. It's hard. It's hard because like you don't want to jump the gun and play all your new stuff without having it recorded. Like I totally get that. We're kind of in between drummers right now too, so we have some downtime to learn and work on some stuff. And I told the guys I would like to get back in the saddle and play shows by like October, November. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause it's hard when music is such a huge outlet. It's really hard to, wait months and months on end, because you only get so much time. There's a finite window of time where you're in your groove and your prime, and this is what you want to do, especially when you're not boring and stuff. Like you look forward to shows, and you don't want to go 60 days in between shows and have that work-life balance don't feel right. You know what I mean? So you want to get back out there on stage and see other people enjoying the show, and it's fulfilling for us too to be on stage and see that enjoyment from them. So.
Well,
Hell yeah.
as an artist, you've got to create. And if you're not creating or doing something, there's something a part of you. I was chatting to, we were talking before camera. I interviewed Flesh God Apocalypse last night, and me and Francesco were talking about how art is a huge part of us as humans in general. Music, art has gotten us through so much in life, and that society has really underappreciating art at this point.
Right.
Even bands like them are having trouble getting albums, releasing it, because the way the music industry is, it's fucking broken. Something needs to fucking change. Like,
Yes.
you're getting these million streams and you're barely making enough money to fucking do some shopping. You know what I mean? It's a broken system, and governments need to come along to the party and start looking after artists in general, because if we didn't have art in society, it would be a very sad, lonely place. And you were talking about live venues and live music. As a band, you spend all this time making albums, time away from family. You sometimes miss shifts because you have to fucking do something, or, you know what I mean? Taking this time away, artists should be paid for their art. As simple as, I feel like people forget to support bands. Like, it's not that much to reach in and pay $10 for a digital album over on Bandcamp. You know what I mean? To support the art that you love, society really needs to come around. You make these albums and you go, fuck, okay, here you go, this is it for nothing. And you really hope that people support you on the back end, coming along to shows. But it makes me sad, because you guys make great albums, and then you're like, fuck, I've got to cater for this streaming platform that's just really going to fuck me over in the end anyway. And I'm hoping I get a few extra fans that go, man, I love this album, I'm going to go buy it, or I'm going to buy a t-shirt. I don't know, I get on my high horse about this a bit, but it's sad.
And that's where we have to make great t-shirts and great hats and things like that too, because
we need some swag.
Yeah, we have to have sweet swag. It's exactly
right. Swag company that also plays music.
Yeah, we're
as horrible as that joke is.
Yeah, t-shirt company that also happens to make music. So
yeah, it's just it just does my goat. I find it very sad the way the state of the music scene is, because you guys obviously love making albums and doing that, but then you got to kind of tape yourself back a bit for the bloody audiences to try and consume it in bite-sized bits. But people do forget that Spotify and all these digital companies are kind of bending us over. So to really support the scene, you got to go along and buy these albums. And as you say, when you're playing shows, like, not only see these big bands like that are flooding our country at the moment and probably running all over the US at the moment, UK, Europe, you've got to support the local scene, have a strong, thriving local underground scene, because you will not have these big bands come because you can't support your local scene. So, don't forget that as well.
Well, it's hard for, like, our area. We're like 60-ish miles outside of Washington, D.C. So we have promoters that want to spend the money and bring these bands in. But the issue is there's larger companies like Live Nation, Ticketmaster, that kind of stuff, have these bands sign radius clauses at the venues that they play in the bigger cities, which then doesn't allow for our venues and things like that to grow, because we're not able to bring in those big bands. Like, as much as we want people to show up to the local shows and stuff, sometimes it takes those bigger bands to put a name, there, and then to put the heads in the building. And some people don't necessarily always come out for the opener, but some people do. And then they find bands, that are just out of nowhere. They're like, oh my God, I've never heard of this band before. Where have I been? And it takes that sometimes. So that's another thing. The whole music industry itself. I'm slow moving. I've never really adopted Spotify. I still go to YouTube, and listen to stuff all the time, when I'm like working and whatever. I miss having my MP3 player loaded with 20,000 songs,
Bandcamp's my go-to now, like, because I feel like I can support the bands. I can buy at least the digital album
directly.
Yeah, directly, and they take the least amount, and I feel like I've got over 600 plus albums on Bandcamp, because it's like buy, because even if I can't buy the physical, I love being able just to support in some way. And I know it's not much, but every little bit helps. If everyone kind of thought that way, the scene would be doing a lot better as well.
Yeah, I think also like trying to get with the times has been insane for me. So back in my old band, we bought CDs, we sold CDs, we sold all of our CDs. We bought CDs for Koluna, and we struggled to get them out necessarily.
And I was a
like,
big proponent about that because I wanted physical media out there
right
for our show.
as did- and it was crazy to see that they didn't move like that. But then again, but then again, people like physical stuff still. I do.
It's an unfortunate game of having to adapt to the evolution
But you
of things and trying to
you go through DistroKid, to release your music, for example, and they're like, we have 24 different places we're going to put your music. I couldn't name but more than 4 of them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what some of the places, when I hear about them, I'm like, I didn't know what Deezer was until I had, for real. But apparently it's big overseas. I didn't know that, and I'm like, well, that's cool. We're on Deezer, but I don't know what it is. And then you find that out later. It's like, oh, but again, I'm old school. I'm like, YouTube, whatever.
Hey, bro, plot spoiler, you're on Pornhub. It's a really good scene. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping for like they actually
we made it, man.
We made it.
I've heard, not that I know, but I've heard that they actually do have clean videos with dirty titles.
Oh, that's what I'm gonna do.
heard that.
Shit, man, I'm gonna get some more views. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll sell dildos, do clean videos on Pornhub. I don't give a fuck.
what was really funny to me, like it's funny but not at the same time, was that at the day after like Obelisk or I came out, one of the CDs came out, someone's like, did you know you guys are on some like German torrent website? I was like,
Yeah.
cool. Like, oh, that's awesome. I'm not even mad.
Stealing our music.
That's,
Yeah.
So with the topsy-turvy digital world, that kind of is a satisfying thing. We know it's not going to be $1 million, but to see a random country like Romania, Germany, or something, it's like somebody was fucking pulling from there.
That's us, and it's like that's a hell of a thing, and like when you see like your name on something, and it's like, well, hopefully one day they'll hire us to play a private party in Monaco, but it's cool to see like your name,
Yeah, my thought process when we first started, for example, and I still kind of remain that way, and I have to get reined in when I do this, but I'm like, I want to see like everybody in the crowd wearing Koluna stuff, hats, shirts, all that stuff. And I keep the price.
You're not supposed to be that guy wearing the shirt.
What?
It's supposed to be cooler than that.
If I don't, it's great. I love that there's other influences of people, but when you go play a show and you see people wearing your gear and they're headbanging and stuff, that's the best.
That's a lot.
Like,
that's a lot.
When we first started, so I did the hat run myself. I was like, guys, let's try like, snapbacks. And the cost to make them was like $20. It was like the hat itself's $15, the 3D embroidery was $5, and it came to $20. What did I sell those for at the show? $20. I didn't care. There was no profit at all. All I cared about was getting our imagery out there.
People weren't. They hit
them. Yeah.
I was like, be the
Nike. I bought one for $20. He got a burgundy and gold one because I like my sad Washington football team.
I said, I want to be the Nike of Martinsburg.
Jesus,
that's what I want to
be. But yeah, but there's a pride. There's a pride in that where you see, as Morgan would say, you were invested when you went to with social media. God bless it, because I can see great concerts from what do we call it, walking and things like that. But the way you're invested is when you wore the T-shirt of the band, and like Morgan talks about going to see Motley Crue on, I think it was like Too Fast for Love, and he was like, you went and saw that, and you bought the shirt, and you showed up at school the next day. You were invested in the band. You had the cassette. You had the hat, you had the shirt, and that's what I like seeing. Like right now. So I'm wearing. I want to give a shout out. My brother's in Marzi Maddox down in Frederick. Our brothers in Finding Dimes. I want to give a shout out. I'm seeing you're wearing that. You got Sleep Token on. That's how we keep our what is it called? The
we don't know them, unfortunately.
Brad,
I don't think many people.
Brad, what shirt are you wearing?
This is Cult of Luna.
It's what?
Cult of Luna.
Have you heard
Oh,
of it?
fuck yeah,
I
I know
love
them,
that
They're
dude.
not our fault.
Dude.
They're not the like
Dude.
Koluna fault. It's just a different band.
I love
Dude,
this band.
Cradle of
But
Filth.
every, but
Hey,
but you see,
good.
he's got Cradle of Filth. We're all invested.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what this community is. It's like what does Robert De Niro say in Meet the Parent? It's the circle. It's the circle.
I'm
And
not into
that's- that-
sports. This is
Oh.
my team, my home team.
Right.
It's the bands
This
I'm
is-
into. You know what I mean? When they're doing well, I'm fucking happy. I'm like, they're kicking ass. Like, you know what I mean? When you
This
get
is
this,
this is our jersey.
That
You
and,
know,
and what's
it
cool
really-
about that is even though we're all wearing different jerseys, we're still all wearing the same jersey at the
Yeah.
end
All
of the
the
day.
same jersey.
Because
Exactly.
like you see a Washington fan and a Dallas fan, they're not excited that they're both football fans.
I know.
They're rivals. They don't care. But when we're all wearing different bands that we enjoy, whether it's metal or rock or anything at least remotely
But
close.
it's that circle.
Remember that video that was like two
Oh.
metalheads randomly see each other in the convenience
Yes.
store and they're like, yeah, and all of a
Yes.
sudden they're
Yeah.
running across the field together. It's like,
Yep.
That's it.
That's
That's it.
exactly it. There's no, you know what I mean? That's why when I see all this gatekeeping bullshit and fucking blah, 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 'cause
Oh, dude.
it does my
yeah.
head in because it's like they're not even 1% of the community that is sitting there having this weird,
No.
usually some old guy older than us sitting there with his arms crossed going, fucking Kiss is the only metal band and shit like that,
Right.
you know what I mean? Or a fucking Man of War or some shit, you know what I mean? It's the community is such an open, loving community as well, and it's always great to see. It must be good for you guys to see as well when you do play the shows in these areas in your local town. Have people come up and go, fuck man, this album meant so much to me. This track, you know, hit me hard, and that's got to be more than, you know, the financial gain as well. And also
for
coming
sure.
up and
Yeah.
buying merch after the show and meeting new fans in each different area and be able to discuss your music and kind of what that meant to them. It must still blow you away every time. I know it does with the
Yeah.
bigger bands I chat with.
Every time. We actually had a fan come up. He's like, I saw your flyer and I listened to your music, and I was like, I'm going to that show. So he like came to the show, met us, got along with us really well. Like he thought we were like just super down to earth. And then he's like, I'm coming to your show tomorrow too. And I was like, okay, that's cool, man. And he literally showed up with the same shirt
Dude.
on that we signed the night before. And I was like, oh my God, this is dedication, man.
And
So,
fans like that is what keeps the scene going because they're the ones that are actually buying the merch. They're the ones going home
Right.
telling 10, 20 of their fucking mates, go check out Koluna. Fuck, this album's good. You know what I mean? People come visit them. They're blasting it. I know I'd be the same. I'd be driving my car. Whoever's in my car has to listen to it. And anyone in the car park I pull up in would have to fucking listen to it as well. Those are the fans that kind of inspire you and keep going. And you know what I mean? Keep the fucking scene going. The ones that watch
Yeah.
interviews like this and do support.
there's so many bands. Like I wish I had just the entire length of our interview to like shout out all the bands that we've played with that have been cool
Same.
people. You know what I mean? I
Same,
wish
brother.
we just have a list. I'm like, here
Such
we
a
are,
great
my
interview,
decree, and it's just like, you know, hundreds of bands.
Well, did you just want to start and just like throw out all the names?
Right, just,
I was
you know.
because we've all played together.
Mhm.
So, Ja, I do want to call attention to our scene here in Southern
please do.
Pennsylvania, in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland. Man, the heavy scene is not only is it very heavy, it's tight.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we all play together, and it's like, hey, we're gonna open for the Acacia Strain, but here's the thing: we're gonna be back at Granny's,
Uh-huh.
and we're gonna do those shows too. You
It's
know?
funny you say that. We literally did open for like Attila at Autobar.
Yeah,
And then
right.
then then we're like, we're not afraid to go home and play our like our small
we
100
still
cap
have
rooms.
we still have
and
the shows
stuff,
in
like-
Martinsburg and Winchester left.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
the schedule. We're gonna do
Never forget where you came from, man.
absolutely not.
You know what I mean? And that's
Well, you can't have a
Cool.
community without the unity, mate. That's for sure as well.
Right.
We're all in this together, and we all need to be looking after each other. How talking about the live music scene in your area because you guys are heavily involved in it.
Mhm.
How has the live scene come out of COVID? Because I know over here in Australia we've got 18% less live music venues now since COVID. So we've had nearly 20% of the venues close up and shut up since then because our government isn't supporting the live music scene. What's it like happening over in your area there?
Well, fortunately for us, the way we were set up for at least Koluna, writing music and learning music during the pandemic was key because when
That was the key opportunity for us, and we were working really hard at that. Yeah.
the first live chance we had was like May of 21. We were like the second show back in our area, something like that from the pandemic. And we came out like swinging, you know what I mean? Like we were ready to go.
Yeah.
And the very next show we played was actually at like the biggest open venue in our area that holds like 6,000 caps, and it is Shiley Acres. It was crazy to get that opportunity to go play there just because like so many countless names would come through, like Seven Dust, In This Moment, I want to say Kill Switch Engage, like stuff like that. Just played this giant field stage. And we were like the first show back after the pandemic there. And that was super gratifying. We were like 5 shows in, we're opening for Gemini Syndrome and A Killer's Confession and stuff. And they're just being acknowledged by the touring, you know, bands at that time was really cool as like a local opener. Our area like really seemed to come out swinging and thrive again. We've lost some venues and stuff.
I think other ones have opened as well.
But
Others
open or reopened, like they've went under and then came back. And there was an influx of a lot of new bands. Some of the bands came back that were gone even before COVID. So like our scene, like Jim will tell you, there's a lot of talent. Like it's crazy that the talent level gets pretty deep at this level. You know what I mean? That we are.
Yeah, and I will say, like in our local area, we're at the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, so we're like sandwiched between Virginia and Maryland, and you know we got Pennsylvania along the way, and so we're just sandwiched around talent. We've made so many friends in Pennsylvania, you know, including Jim, and you know, great talent in Maryland.
But,
you know, we got half-heard voices from
Frederick.
They're doing
dude.
Yeah.
They just toured with Max Cavalera twice, you know, so
right. We got Dinosaurs in Paris.
Yep.
We just
those
guys are great. Yeah, we love playing with them.
Dude, so. And shout out to our brother Brandon Wright, who does Right Live. You know, he's been in several bands himself, but like
he kept all of us moving, man, during the pandemic.
Exactly.
Don't stop with that. Yeah.
He held outdoor karaoke things so we could still stay within the regulations, the guideline area, just so we could all still get together and enjoy music, you know. And so he kept us afloat for a couple years.
As things open up here, I was a bartender for many years at the time. I was designated COVID marshal as it opened up, and I loved it because they never played any real music. It was always just someone pressing play on their tape deck, so I could go around and tell every cunt not to dance. Stop dancing, stop singing. I fucking loved it. The metalhead in me was like, I think I loved my job a little too much. A lot of the regulars really fucking hated me as COVID marshal because it was my one little joy.
Jay, it was crazy. So we basically could not, in our area, we were not allowed to have karaoke inside during the pandemic. So the bar circumvened that by putting a tent outside, like in the dead of winter, a tent with a heater inside of this giant tent, because we were outside but inside. You know what I mean? It was like just to keep at least feeling normal. And which then, you know, there was a time I remember we were out at karaoke. It was like December, I think it was, and we got news that one of our local scene members, who was like a drummer, Justin, he passed away, and it was just like, that's why we have to keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like we can't let people get into the dark spots during this dark time. We got to keep going. And so, you know, we kept jamming, and then we, you know, came out swinging, and then the world didn't get back to normal right away. But, you know, over time, it still doesn't feel normal. We're 4 years removed from it. You know what I mean? And it still doesn't feel
normal, but just crazier.
Definitely crazier.
Definitely crazy. This is one Jim was probably going to ask. Tell us a little bit about the setups he's got.
Indeed.
What's that? What's the question, Jim?
Yeah, go, Jim.
What do you use it as your live rig?
So I was kind of like the czar of like, hey, I want this to be done this way. So when we started, we started out on a Helix. I had a Line 6 Helix, had one that Brad used. It was a floor model. I used the rack. And then I transitioned to the Quad Cortex, which has been like the top of the line S tier. This is the unit right now. And then Brad got one, and we have a backup one that our fill-in guitar player Garrett plays on as well. So I have his rig set up too. Jason knows his bass rig, so I'll let him explain that.
Okay, so they have these nice fancy software rigs that they get to move them in a Jordan shoebox. So I have a real one, unfortunately. So head unit is a Carvin. I want to say X 1800. It's got over 1,000 watts. It's more than we need, but it's a great head unit. I have a Behringer noise gate and compressor with that. On my road case, head unit road case plus the power conditioner. 8x10 Gallien Kruger cabinet, and then okay, I'm sorry. It's a 4x10. Used to be the 8x10. It's 4x10. Yeah. I sold that. I'm old. So the 4x10, it's already like 3 times the size of their little tiny like powered cabinets. So
in my head, until we start playing, regularly at concert hall, kind of size venues, like we're playing.
You just need one cabinet, and then you have a bunch of dummy cabs. That's all you do.
Yeah, but for us, we have 1x12 like Line 6 power cabs that get the job done.
Yeah,
and if we
so
really need to,
volume,
we can DI. It's cool.
So I downgraded to like a 4 speaker Gallien Kruger speaker. So the pedal board is it's a SansAmp DI bass overdrive, which that is like the foundation of my tone. Added
beautiful
K7 dark glass to that, just add the extra little bit of grit, and then just noise.
Because you've got this interesting fuzz that it's not quite like a stoner metal, but it's like just enough where it's compressed. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and it's still tight too.
See,
all the same,
those beautiful bass overdrive pedals, the SansAmp and dark glass. I don't really pull the blend 100%. So because I want to have a little bit of the duality of like at least it's sounding clean while it's trying to be dirty.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Bradley, what do you? Oh no, sorry. It skipped there for a minute. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Bradley, what are you using, brother?
I'm not much of a gear guy. I just
he's using
hey, that's okay.
So I play a Schecter 7-string Quad Cortex. Same 1x12. So.
Yeah, we have a pretty similar setup. The only
I didn't mention the basses. They're both LTD. Let me see, XB. They're both 5-string XB 5E, and I forget what the new one is, but it's also LTD 5-string with active pickups.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. As far as guitars, I've got an endorsement through Esoteric Guitars. Now they've been.
I was gonna say you're esoteric. Yeah. I knew that.
Yeah, they've been kind of quiet for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and they're gonna be really, really expensive when they do.
they're changing some background manufacturing kind of things, and I don't know when they're coming back, but hopefully they do. But I had switched like last Labor Day. I got like a Legator Ninja, and dude, the headless, I love it. It is compact. It feels like a little traveler guitar. It's light, and it gets like such a tone for what we do that it's not like treble heavy. It's really mid range. You know what I mean? Not too bassy. Not too. It's got like the perfect tone where we're at.
Is it kind of like, I want to say this wrong, Steinberger?
Yes. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, it's like one of those. Yeah, it's
the body isn't squared off like that, but it's totally like headless or whatever.
Yeah, tuning pegs are a little weird because they're all tight down here at the bottom. But
wild.
I'm not a light wood kind of neck piece kind of guy, but that guitar is, and I'm like, I don't even care. What I care about is how it sounds, and it sounds amazing.
Correct. Tonality is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Oh my god, awesome.
Favorite track off the album. I know it's a couple of years old. Did come out in March though, guys. Pick a favorite track off the album and why.
Wow.
of our own here.
Yep.
Right now, Obelisk is my favorite, but knowing what's coming, that will no longer be the case.
Yeah, dude. We'll talk about that later when you're closer to release. We'll get you back on and
Yes.
chat about the new album as well.
Absolutely.
Brad, Jason.
Yeah, mine changes all the time, but currently it's Mental Warfare.
Oh,
That's-
good track.
And we barely play
Yes.
that live anymore.
Yeah.
We barely play it live.
It's always a fun. It's a good groovy song. It's a lot of fun to play.
Mhm.
Well, if we're just talking favorite song in general, mine is Groundbreaker.
Yep.
I think it's a ball buster. It's fast and it's got a break that just I love it every time.
But that's the thing, listening to albums, whole albums as well. Sometimes I know, because I'm telling my age of 44, I'd listen to whole albums and you'd kind of come in back to these deeper cuts. Sometimes you'd gravitate towards this one track for a couple of weeks and you're like, nah, fuck, this one's my favorite. You know what I mean? So it is a joy diving into whole albums. So I really hope society doesn't fucking forget
I will
what
say for
a joy that is.
Oracle, so far, that my favorite track was Oracle, but I think it's more no. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Oracle. Yeah.
I'm glad he just likes them in general. You know what I mean? Like, he likes.
First it was Obelisk. Now I think it's grown to Oracle. My favorite.
Brad will tell you he got tired of playing The Awakening before we even played our first show because the pandemic we drilled those songs. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
week in, week out.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then we were getting ready to play our first show. He's like, I'm tired of playing this track.
Yeah.
Which is a good song, because that when you know you're prepared is when you absolutely playing those songs because you know them so well.
Yeah.
So you
You're-
said
you're
be so keen to fucking get this new album out. Have you got a time frame at all, or what's your plans with this one?
December.
I will leave it. I will really leave that up to the rest of the band because we have the downtime now to start really digging in and learning it, especially bringing in a new drummer here soon. The game plan is, get them half up to speed on the discography. And then what do you want of the new stuff? Like, what do you feel like fits what you want to do? Because it kind of gives them a little bit more of a say early on instead of learn all this stuff. You're just taking on a role. I want to give them the opportunity to have a little say. Like, what do you want to play as far as what we have coming? We also have to think what songs I always say this all the time. What songs sound best live and what songs are better recording versions? Because there are songs that do not translate to the live component as well as ones that are better on CD.
Well, I think they all do. It's just depend. I think it's just a matter of what we like best.
Yeah, and depending
I love
on it depends because we cross genres. Cross genre shows are normal in this day and age. You see different tours. You're like, wow, that doesn't make sense. But
That's the best.
I like to know going forward that we're gonna have tracks that fit in with the lighter bands. And then we also have tracks that can fit in with the hardcore and heavy. We've always kind of laid in that area. Well, like I said, people that may be standard listeners, not hardcore, they're more casual, they can get into us and think that listen to something super heavy. And then the people that like super heavy are I get down with that. You know what I mean? So I try to make something for everybody.
That's what's beautiful. You can go through, you can appeal to a death metal crowd. You could deal to almost the pop crowd. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it.
Or you can also do this one, which we got to talk about. I'm not going to play the audio for it, but that performance, dude. I was waiting. Yeah. I know Jim and Chris have been wanting to talk about this.
I wanted, Chris, I was going to text you. I was like, are you rubbing yourself right now?
You might have still been clocked in at work, so I don't know.
No, I was off the day that happened. I was, they didn't say when they were going to play specifically, but I kept, scouring. I was like, I don't want to watch 5 hours of opening ceremony coverage just for the 4-minute piece that I want. But I watched a lot of it that day. I was just chilling. But no, when they came on, man, I've seen Gojira 22 times. I'm friends with some of the guys in the crew and stuff like that. Yeah. About to 23 when they toured Korn. But it's personal in a way for me because I've run a fan group for them on Facebook. It's called Gojira Fans Worldwide. I've connected with people overseas in India, France, various other countries. In fact, one of my friends, Abhinav from India, flew over and followed them on tour, and I met up with him, and he stayed with me for a couple of days, a couple of different times. We went to the master class. I made a friend overseas because a band brought that, to me. And like I said, I've had experiences with the band, interactions and things like that.
Yes.
that I'm really grateful for. And so to see that band, the band that I latched onto when they came from, now granted, they toured with Metallica back in like 08, 09, which is a really big deal. But at the time here in the US, they weren't known like that. You know what I mean? They were playing smaller kind of like concert venues, couple hundred caps. To see them go from that and be along the whole way with them to they are the torchbearer for metal in today's society. It's like, that's crazy. And I'm so proud of them for that. And, you know, they can only go up from here. I mean, watching them get Grammy nominations from where I had first found them is, you know, it's unreal. So I teared up for sure watching that. So.
That comes back to the home team thing as well. It's so great to see them doing that. Their ethics, them as people, are just an amazing band, and what they stand for and how they hold themselves is unreal. So it's really great to see them go from strength to strength, not only for themselves as a band, what they've done for France, and also what they've done for the whole metal community as well. It's super inspiring to see a heavy metal band playing the opening of the Olympic ceremony. And it got me thinking, besides Koluna playing the US, who would you like to see supporting America for something like that, dude?
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if the Olympics were in San Francisco, I would absolutely demand that Faith No More play it.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool? Mr. Bungle.
Mr. Bungle.
Yeah.
As
So
well.
that Mike Patton would have to be involved somehow.
Yeah.
It's funny because on my arm I have Gojira, Tesseract, and Meshuggah. So I have all these European bands and no American representation on my arm at all. It's not to say I don't like American music, but I don't know. Like it's so if we're talking like here in the US, the representation, I don't know if it'd be the Olympics or not, but the Super Bowl. You know, we have dabbled heavy enough in the Super Bowl. Like we got like Red Hot Chili Peppers one year. You know what I mean? But
Metallica, right before St. Andrew, they did play a pregame, I think, like tailgate show before a Raiders play. In 2000,
and they wore Raiders shirts.
I don't know why we don't have more metal bands.
It was
The
right,
AFL have just got
had, Robert Trujillo as a bass. It was Bob Rock that played bass with them.
Yep. Robert Trujillo's
That's
unreal.
right.
They just got Katy Perry for the fucking Aussie Rules grand final here. I don't know why we don't have more metal bands or hard rock bands playing these sporting events. It just seems tailor fucking made.
You would think. I mean, I remember when I was coming up as a kid, like I was like probably 10 years old watching NASCAR and stuff. And the theme song for like the summertime coverage on TNT was Fuel by Metallica.
Yeah, it was.
Then you have so many wrestling like events that have metal bands, like as far as like the theme songs. So like Code Orange got into like a pay-per-view and played a pay-per-view for WWE. It's like wrestling gets it. Why can't the rest of the
and the
sports
Drowning Pool was like that Bodies track, man.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that was just OP as fuck, man.
So we just wish that on a grander stage that like it's been great, you know, being a fan of a genre that like we have a community, but it's not like out there. But we want to see it grow. We want to see like everyone get into it. And the Olympics was, I feel like, a jumping off point to a degree. Our world is very divided right now. So you have people saying this is a satanic performance, and I'm like, that's not the case. France is showing you
nothing about that was satanic, by the way.
No, not like I'm like, okay. It's like I thought to myself, I'm like, I remember watching like
there's
Disney.
a lot of Christians in France.
There was a Disney thing coming up. What was like the head horseman, the Ichabod Crane, and I was like, I saw that when I was 5 years old.
I got offense to that storybook as well. Fucking Pinocchio. Fuck, man. I don't know, dude. It's like, think what you want, but study history and make your own fucking opinion on things. You know what I mean? Like, if you're living your life by a storybook, and any book that tells you how to treat a fucking slave, in my opinion, should be discounted and thrown in the fucking bin anyway, dude. It has no relevance on society. And the gatekeeping thing, as you mentioned, the community isn't big enough. We need more unity in it. And our scene isn't big enough for us to tear each other apart. In the fucking scene. Music is so subjective. If you get something out of a band that you're listening to, from Black Veil Brides to Falling in Reverse to Gojira to fucking whatever the fuck you're listening to, if it makes you move and you feel something in your soul, who gives a fuck? Play it loud, play it proud, and don't rip someone else down for doing it, even if it is fucking Katy Perry.
I mean, you know, like I said, I watched other parts of the Olympic ceremony, and of course, like there were things that I was like, that's not my vibe, but I'm not over here like having an absolute, meltdown, over other things going on. I'm just like, dude, like I'm proud of my dudes, what they did. I'm glad they made it to where they needed to be. I'm glad other people probably enjoyed different various parts of the ceremony. It doesn't need to be an outrage. There's plenty of stuff every day that's far worse that we should be outraged about. So
I know. I kind of wish I lived in their little world where their problem was what was happening in the Olympics. You know what I mean? I'm sitting in remission from cancer. I was chatting to someone last night who nearly died in a mountain accident. You know what I mean? You've got a sick parent, dude. We've all got problems. If my biggest problem in the world was whether Gojira played or I didn't like the opening ceremony at the Olympics, well, fuck, dude, I'd be a happy man. I'll tell you what.
Exactly. There are far bigger things to be concerned of in our personal lives, let alone, in the overall grand scheme of things of what a country decides and deems to be, speaking about their culture and their message. You know what I mean? So
exactly, and it does draw back to the origin of the Olympics anyway. So if anyone did do their fucking history, they know exactly what that was about. Look, guys, I could go on all fucking night. Jim, do you have anything else you want to chuck in before we wind up, my friend?
I love you all. That's all I have to say.
Let's get together here soon. How about that?
That's it.
Oh,
Cool.
absolutely. I was gonna hop on chat after we were done here. So
that's it. Awesome, guys. Any last words, shout outs, thank yous, anything I've forgotten or anything you'd like to chuck in there, my friends?
Thank you guys for having us first and foremost, and thank you for doing this. It makes us feel like rock stars first and foremost. But also just, having that level of engagement and that depth, like to where you were just like, I listen to this song. It's big, you know what I mean? For me, for us, because it shows that what we're doing matters to somebody. You know what I mean? Not that I do this also for myself as much as I do it for everybody else. I enjoy playing music. If I see one person smile, that's all that matters. I'm glad that I made that connection with people, but I hope to connect with many more. I hope to see it grow. I hope to see a lot more head banging, smiling faces out there. Actually, the stink face. You know what I mean? Make that face for like, yeah, that's heavy. I like that. I want that.
Yeah, right.
I want that.
But last gig I went to, I just sat there with this biggest smile on my face the whole time. I was like snapping for municipal waste. I tried to get the stank face, but I was just so happy to be in amongst once again. I was like,
yes. Shout out to our whole local community of bands. There's just too many to name, and I would feel like I'm playing favorites if I name just a couple. Shout out to our merch girl Amanda. She does a great job holding down.
Amanda is awesome. We love you.
Garrett, Hunter, all of our friends, Stefan, everybody.
Boy, yeah.
Appreciate everybody. So
that's it. Look, this has been an absolute pleasure. Everybody go out, grab some Koluna. The latest album is Obelisk. Chuck it in the stereos, crank it up really fucking loud. The neighbors are going to want to hear it too. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much for your support. Cheers.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.